Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
There will come a moment when staying will hurt more than leaving. When silence becomes louder than words. When love starts to feel like self-betrayal. That's the moment, right there. When you are being called to choose yourself. We often think strength means holding on, proving we can endure. But sometimes, strength is the quiet courage to unclench your fist and walk away. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about you. Have you ever stayed somewhere? Relationship, friendship, job, simply because the thought of leaving terrified you more than the pain of staying? That's not weakness. That's your heart trying to make sense of love that has run its course. Walking away doesn't mean giving up. It means honoring your worth. You are allowed to choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and healing over history. There was a woman who kept returning to the same place, hoping this time things would be different. She tried harder, loved deeper, forgave endlessly. But each time she left that place, she felt smaller. One morning, she looked at herself in the mirror and realized she no longer recognized the person staring back. The light in her eyes had dimmed. That day, she whispered, "No more." Not out of anger, not out of pride, but because she finally understood that love isn't meant to destroy you. And when she walked away, she broke her own heart, but that heartbreak became the doorway to her freedom. Healing didn't happen overnight. It came slowly, through tears, silence, and the sacred art of rebuilding herself from the inside out. That's the paradox of walking away. It feels like the end, but it's really the beginning of becoming who you were always meant to be. When you start to love yourself enough to walk away, the world doesn't suddenly get easier. It actually gets heavier for a while. Because choosing yourself means breaking patterns you once called love, letting go of people who once felt like home, and releasing the version of you who thought that endurance was the same as devotion. But here's the truth. Self-respect is the foundation of every healthy connection you will ever build. When you begin to understand that your peace is sacred, you stop allowing people to disturb it just because you care about them. You start to see that love without respect isn't love. It's longing, it's attachment. It's the quiet ache of hoping someone will finally see your worth when you've been giving them the map all along. Loving yourself enough to walk away means no longer choosing to bleed just to keep someone else warm. It's realizing that love that constantly hurts isn't noble. It's self-abandonment dressed as loyalty. Letting go isn't weakness. It's one of the most powerful forms of wisdom a person can ever embody. We live in a world that praises endurance. Stay strong. Don't give up. Keep fighting. But rarely do we honor the courage it takes to whisper, "This isn't for me anymore." It takes strength to admit that something you once wanted so deeply no longer serves your peace or your growth. It takes strength to walk away without closure, without applause, without being understood. Sometimes walking away is simply trusting that your worth doesn't need validation. That peace doesn't always come wrapped in understanding. You learn to stop chasing explanations and start building boundaries. You begin to honor the sacred truth that you can love someone and still leave them. Because love should never be a reason to stay small. But let's be honest, it will break you. There's no sugarcoating the ache that comes when you finally let go. The nights will feel longer. The memories will sting. You'll replay every moment in your head, trying to make sense of how something so real could end. Yet in that heartbreak, something miraculous happens. That breaking is the very soil where healing begins to grow. The pain cracks you open so light can finally reach the parts you've been hiding. You realize that pain is not the enemy. It's a messenger, a reminder that something within you deserves more tenderness than you've been giving it. You start to rebuild slowly, carefully, not as who you were, but as who you're becoming. In that rebuilding, silence becomes your teacher. The silence after walking away feels deafening at first. It's filled with echoes of what was, and the loneliness of what's no longer there. But in that quiet, something sacred starts to happen. You begin to hear your own voice again, the one that got drowned out in the noise of trying to please everyone else. You sit with yourself long enough to learn what peace actually feels like, not the fragile calm of pretending everything's fine, but the deep, rooted calm that comes when you no longer negotiate your worth. Solitude stops being a punishment and starts being a mirror. You find clarity in the spaces between your pain. You discover that healing isn't about forgetting. It's about forgiving yourself for staying too long and promising yourself that you'll never shrink to fit inside someone else's comfort again. And eventually, you realize that walking away was never an act of defeat. It was an act of hope. Hope that there's something better waiting for you beyond what broke you. Hope that love can exist without suffering, that connection can thrive without confusion, that your heart can be soft and strong at the same time. Every step you take away from what drained you is a step toward what's meant for you. Hope whispers that your story isn't ending. It's just changing chapters. It teaches you that real love doesn't cage you, it frees you. That peace isn't found in what you hold on to, but in what you release. Loving yourself enough to walk away will break you, yes, but it will also rebuild you in the most beautiful way. You'll rise with boundaries made of self-respect, with a voice that no longer trembles and a heart that no longer confuses pain for passion. You'll look back one day and realize that the moment you walked away wasn't the end of love. It was the beginning of learning what love truly means. Because real love starts the moment you stop betraying yourself. Real love begins when you choose you. Letting go is not weakness, it's wisdom. We are taught to believe that strength means staying, holding on, proving our endurance, proving our loyalty. But there comes a moment when holding on becomes a form of slow self-destruction. When you realize that no matter how hard you try, you cannot make something whole that was built on cracks. It's in that moment, when your hands are tired, your heart is heavy, and your spirit feels small, that true wisdom whispers, you can let go now. That whisper isn't telling you to quit. It's asking you to trust yourself enough to stop chasing what no longer feeds your soul. Letting go doesn't mean you failed. It means you finally understood that your worth isn't defined by how much pain you can endure for the sake of love. It takes profound courage to walk away from something you once prayed for. You remember the laughter, the warmth, the promises. You remember the version of yourself who once believed this was everything you needed. So when that same thing starts to bring you pain, you cling harder, thinking that maybe if you try a little more, it'll go back to what it used to be. But love that requires you to lose yourself isn't love. It's survival disguised as hope. Wisdom is knowing that walking away doesn't erase the love that was real. It simply honors the truth that love, no matter how deep, cannot thrive where respect is missing, where peace is constantly disrupted, where your spirit keeps shrinking to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. You see, wisdom is rarely loud. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or certainty. It arrives as a quiet, steady knowing deep in your bones. It's that gentle tug that says, "This isn't home anymore." You try to silence it, ignore it, reason with it. But the truth remains you cannot heal in the same place that broke you. And once you understand that, you begin to see letting go for what it truly is, not an ending, but a sacred act of self-preservation. You realize that you were never meant to carry the weight of what doesn't belong to you. You were never meant to keep fixing things that keep breaking you. Letting go is wisdom because it teaches you the difference between loyalty and self-betrayal. Loyalty without boundaries is not love. It's self-sacrifice. It's choosing someone else's happiness over your own peace. It's believing that if you give enough, if you love enough, they'll finally see your worth. But real love doesn't need to be proven through pain. Real love grows through mutual respect, not one-sided effort. When you walk away, you are not turning your back on love. You are turning toward truth. And the truth is, not everyone you love is meant to walk beside you for the whole journey. Some people are chapters, not destinations. It's also wisdom because it forces you to face one of life's hardest lessons. Closure is something you create, not something you wait for. You may never get the apology you deserve, the explanation you crave, or the clarity you hoped for. But that's okay. Wisdom reminds you that peace doesn't depend on other people's words. It lives in your decision to move forward anyway. You can release without resentment. You can forgive without returning. You can let go without bitterness. You can bless what was, grieve what never became, and still trust that you are walking towards something better. When you finally let go, the silence feels strange at first. You might doubt your decision, miss the familiar chaos, or wonder if you made a mistake. But over time, something shifts. You wake up one morning and realize your heart feels lighter. You notice that the air around you feels clearer. You start laughing without guilt. That's wisdom too. The understanding that healing doesn't happen in one grand moment, but in small, quiet choices made every single day. Choosing peace over argument, choosing boundaries over guilt, choosing yourself over the fear of being alone. Letting go is wisdom because it's the moment you finally stop living in potential and start living in truth. It's the moment you stop waiting for someone else to save you and realize you've been holding the key all along. The courage to release is not about giving up. It's about stepping into the unknown with faith that what's ahead will not hurt the way what's behind did. You no longer cling to what's fading, you open your hands to receive what's meant to grow. And one day when you look back, you'll see it clearly. The decision to let go wasn't the moment you lost something. It was the moment you came home to yourself. It was the moment wisdom, not fear, began to guide your steps. And that kind of peace, that kind of wisdom is worth every tear it takes to get there. The breaking is part of the healing. It's the part no one wants to talk about, the part that makes you feel like everything inside you has collapsed, like you'll never feel whole again. When you finally walk away from something that once meant everything, there's an emptiness that follows you like a shadow. You wake up in the middle of the night with memories that sting. You replay every moment, wondering if you could have done something, anything, different. That's the breaking. It's the moment when your heart starts to accept a truth your mind has been avoiding for too long. It's over. And you can't go back. But what if that breaking isn't punishment? What if it's the beginning of something sacred? We live in a world that teaches us to avoid pain at all costs, to numb it, to bury it, to distract ourselves until it goes away. But pain doesn't disappear because we ignore it. It waits. It waits for the quiet moments, for the stillness, for the times when our hearts are too tired to run anymore. And then it whispers, "Face me." Healing doesn't come from avoiding the breaking. It comes from walking straight through it. Because the only way out of pain is through it. You have to feel the ache, the loss, the emptiness, and still believe that life is not ending. It's transforming. In the breaking, you start to see what was real and what was illusion. You realize that some of the things you were holding on to were never meant to last forever. You begin to understand that love, even when it ends, leaves behind lessons that shape you in ways comfort never could. The cracks that breaking creates inside you aren't signs of weakness. They are openings. Openings for truth, for light, for grace. It's through those cracks that you begin to see who you truly are when everything you depended on has fallen away. Healing begins in those small, quiet moments when you stop pretending you're fine, when you allow yourself to cry without shame, when you admit that you miss what you had, but you don't miss who you were when you had it. That's the beginning of transformation. When your healing becomes less about fixing what was broken and more about rebuilding what was lost within you. The breaking forces you to meet yourself at your most vulnerable, raw, unguarded self. It strips away the masks, the pretending, the illusions. It shows you your strength not through resistance, but through surrender. There's a strange beauty in this process. It hurts, but it's honest. The breaking humbles you, it softens you. It teaches you compassion, for yourself and for others. It makes you realize that everyone you meet is fighting a silent battle of their own. You stop judging people so quickly, because you understand what it feels like to be shattered and still show up. You start to see healing not as a destination, but as a slow unfolding, a daily decision to choose growth over grief, understanding over anger, and gratitude over resentment. And even in the darkest moments, when it feels like you're drowning in memories, something remarkable is happening inside you. The pain is reshaping you. It's building resilience where fear once lived. It's teaching you to trust yourself again. The same heart that broke is learning to beat stronger, steadier, freer. You begin to see that healing isn't about becoming who you were before. It's about becoming someone wiser, softer, braver. It's about carrying your scars with grace, not shame. Eventually, You'll wake up one morning and realize that the pain doesn't sting the same way anymore. The memories still exist, but they no longer control you. You can think of the past without collapsing under its weight. You'll look at yourself in the mirror and notice something different. A quiet strength in your eyes, a softness in your smile. That's what healing looks like. Not perfection, not pretending you're over it, but the simple, sacred truth that you survived what was meant to break you, and in surviving, you became more whole than ever before. So yes, the breaking will hurt. It will shatter illusions and strip away comfort. But one day, you'll look back and see that it was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to awaken you. The breaking is how your soul sheds what's no longer true. It's how you return to yourself. Healing doesn't happen in spite of the pain. It happens because of it. Every tear, every ache, every sleepless night, it's all part of the sacred work of becoming. And when the light finally returns, you'll understand that the breaking wasn't the end. It was the moment you finally began to heal. Silence and solitude are teachers. When you walk away from someone or something that once consumed your world, the first thing you notice is the quiet. The noise that used to fill your days, the messages, the arguments, the constant tension, suddenly disappears, and what's left is a stillness that can feel almost unbearable. You sit with yourself and realize how long it's been since you actually did that. How long it's been since you've listened to your own thoughts without someone else's voice echoing in the background. The silence feels strange at first. It feels like loss. But over time, it becomes something else. It becomes sacred. Silence is where the truth lives. It's in the quiet moments, when the world isn't demanding anything from you, that your heart begins to speak. It tells you what hurt, what healed, what you still carry, and what it's finally time to release. But to hear that voice, you have to slow down long enough to listen. That's what solitude gives you, space to hear your own soul again. It's not punishment, it's presence. It's the gentle return to yourself after being scattered in too many directions for too long. In the beginning, solitude can feel lonely. You'll catch yourself reaching for your phone, scrolling through old messages, trying to fill the silence with anything that distracts you from it. But slowly, you begin to see that this space you've been avoiding is actually where healing begins. You realize that you've spent so much of your life giving to others that you forgot what it feels like to give to yourself. You've been so focused on being understood that you stopped understanding yourself. Solitude changes that. It teaches you that your own company is not something to escape, it's something to cherish. When you stop running from the quiet, you start to notice things you hadn't before. The way your breath steadies when you sit by a window in the morning. The way the world feels softer when you're not constantly trying to prove yourself. You begin to reconnect with the smallest joys, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of rain, the peace of being exactly where you are. These moments may seem insignificant, but they are the building blocks of wholeness. They remind you that peace doesn't come from the outside world, it begins within you. Silence also shows you the truth about the relationships and situations you left behind. When the noise fades, you start to see what was real and what was projection. You start to recognize how much energy you spent trying to fix what was never yours to fix. You see how much of your identity was wrapped up in someone else's approval or presence. That realization can hurt. It can feel like losing a part of yourself. But the deeper truth is, you're not losing anything. You're rediscovering the parts of you that got buried beneath the noise. You're coming home to your own voice, your own boundaries, your own truth. There's also power in the silence that follows heartbreak. It's in that quiet that you learn emotional maturity. The kind that doesn't need constant validation, the kind that doesn't chase closure or explanation. You begin to understand that peace isn't about having all the answers, it's about being okay without them. The silence gives you permission to stop performing, stop pretending, stop explaining yourself to people who were never meant to understand you. You start to realize that you don't need to be loud to be seen, you just need to be authentic. And then there's solitude. The deeper kind of stillness that teaches you how to love yourself again. It's not just about being alone. It's about being with yourself in a way that feels safe. You start to nurture yourself like you would someone you love. You speak kindly to your reflection. You forgive your past mistakes. You rest without guilt. You give yourself the same compassion you once reserved for others. Solitude teaches you that being alone doesn't mean being empty. It means being whole enough to not need constant filling. Eventually, silence and solitude stop feeling like absence. They start to feel like peace. You realize that this quiet space is not a void. It's a sanctuary. It's where you learn what your soul truly needs, where your wounds begin to breathe, where your strength begins to grow roots. You understand that healing doesn't come from distractions or noise. It comes from sitting in stillness long enough to face what you've been avoiding. And one day, you'll notice that the silence no longer feels heavy, it feels like home. You'll sit with yourself and feel safe, content, grounded. You'll look around and realize that the stillness you once feared has become your greatest teacher. Because silence teaches you to listen, solitude teaches you to love, and together they remind you that everything you need to heal has been within you all along. Walking away is an act of hope. It may not feel like it at first. When you finally make that choice to leave the relationship, the friendship, the environment that's been slowly draining your spirit, it feels like loss. It feels like failure. It feels like standing at the edge of a cliff with no idea what's on the other side. But underneath the fear, the grief, the heartbreak, there's something else quietly stirring hope. The very act of walking away means you still believe there's something better waiting for you. It means that even after all the pain, you still have faith that your life can be more than survival. Hope doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's just the whisper that says, "You deserve more than this." It's that small, persistent voice that refuses to let you stay where love feels like confusion and peace feels like distance. Hope is what moves your trembling feet forward when your heart wants to run back. It's what keeps you standing when everything inside you is shaking. It's not number, it's brave. Because hope requires you to trust in a future you can't see yet. To believe that even though this chapter is closing, another one is already being written for you. When you walk away, you are saying yes to possibility. You're saying yes to peace, to dignity, to a life where love feels safe, not exhausting. You may not know exactly where you're going, but hope tells you that anywhere that honors your worth is better than a place that asks you to forget it. That's what makes walking away so powerful. It's a declaration that you are no longer available for half love, half truths, or half effort. It's hope in action. You are betting on yourself, even if no one else understands it yet. The beautiful thing about hope is that it doesn't erase the pain. It transforms it. The hurt you feel after walking away doesn't disappear overnight. There will be moments when you miss what you left behind, when nostalgia paints everything softer than it was. But hope is what keeps you from going back. It's the light that reminds you why you left in the first place. It's what tells you that the ache in your chest isn't emptiness. It's space being cleared for something better. Every tear you cry is watering the ground where new strength will grow. Every lonely night is teaching you patience, resilience, and self-trust. Hope also invites forgiveness, not necessarily of others, but of yourself. You start to forgive yourself for staying too long, for ignoring red flags, for believing you could love someone into becoming who you needed them to be. Hope teaches you that you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. It tells you that your story isn't defined by your mistakes, but by your ability to rise after them. Hope doesn't demand perfection. It honors progress. It celebrates the fact that you're still trying, still learning, still becoming. And eventually, hope starts to show itself in small, quiet ways. It's in the morning when you wake up and realize your first thought isn't about the past anymore. It's in the ladder that escapes you unexpectedly. It's in the way you start making plans again, the way you begin to dream again. Hope doesn't rush you, it walks beside you, holding your hand as you rebuild. It whispers, "Keep going. You're getting closer." Walking away is an act of hope because it's rooted in faith. The kind of faith that believes your future holds more joy than your past held pain. It's faith that the love you gave will return to you in ways you never imagined. It's faith that endings can become beginnings, and that heartbreak can become the soil of transformation. When you walk away, you're not turning your back on love. You're walking toward the version of it that finally includes you. One day, when you've healed enough to look back without pain, you'll realize that leaving wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning of your awakening. You'll see how hope carried you through the darkness, how it kept you believing when everything felt impossible. You'll see that walking away wasn't about loss. It was about liberation. It was about trusting that the life waiting for you on the other side of goodbye would be softer, truer, freer. So yes, walking away hurts. It breaks you open. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about love. But it's also the most courageous act of faith you'll ever take. Because hope doesn't ask you to see the whole path. It just asks you to take one step toward the light. And when you do, you realize something beautiful. Walking away wasn't about leaving someone behind. It was about finally coming home to yourself. Walking away doesn't mean you stopped loving. It means you started loving right. It means you chose your peace over your pain, your dignity over your doubt, and your truth over your fear. So if your heart is breaking while you take that step away, trust it. Because that breaking sound you hear isn't the end of your story. It's the sound of your soul finally coming home.